Hello and welcome to Voices of the Prophets, class number 16. I am Rabbi Rafi Mollot, everybody's Rebbe. We are studying the book of Obadiah. We are beginning tonight, verse 20. We have in the studio Colin Martin and Lisa. We have in the YouTube comments so far Liz, who says, good to be back, excited for the next verse. We had a couple of weeks off. We took off for Shavuot and last week for Father's Day. And tonight we are back. It says we have 5 viewers on YouTube. Tonight's class is going to be a big mind explosive. At least that's what I have planned. What other housekeeping do we usually have to go to? Abri is here. Please consider, if you haven't done so already, like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, become a channel member. You can support the channel with a monthly membership fee, the price of a coffee every month. Help support the channel, and you get early access to my content. This live stream will become members only for 1 week. Following the stream, my YouTube shorts come out about a day in advance for members only. Some remain members only. Some of the juicier ones that I don't want to get in trouble from, I'll leave just for the members to watch. And in addition to that, I also have Laws of B'nai Noahide Laws series that's members only, and I'm planning to continue it this summer. I just finished the school year. We did it over the summer last summer, and I'm hoping to continue it this summer. So that's an exciting perk for members, particularly if you identify as a Ben Noach or would like to learn more about the Noahide laws. You can also support the channel through the donation links in the video description below. On that note, I would like to thank Colin Martin for a generous donation. Thank you for your support. And in addition, as we mentioned in a previous class, an anonymous donor donated with the following dedication: with deepest thanks and appreciation for all you do to spread the light of Judaism and for all you do for the Noahide community. I also just met someone in our synagogue, a very nice person who unfortunately lost her father recently, and I want to dedicate tonight's class in his memory. So in memory of David Peretz ben Shalom Shimon, may our Torah learning be a merit for his neshama, for his holy soul. Okay. I don't know if I'm, shopartschool.com/Rebbe Rafi, REBBI RAFI, and use that link, shop on artscroll.com, and you can help the channel with a commission from your purchases. Okay. Without further ado, I think we're ready to begin the class. Any questions or comments before we start? JJ Otto, Shalom Aleichem from the hot American hotland of Iowa. Yeah, if you think that's hot, just imagine how it is here in Texas. Oh boy, not a fun place to be in the summer. Now, tonight's going to be a little bit different. There's a tremendous amount of source material that I want to go through, and it was so much that I really couldn't transfer to slides for reasons you'll see. So I left it in a Google Doc. I'm going to share my Google Doc. I'll try to enlarge the print. It's all Hebrew. So if you can't read Hebrew, I'm going to go through the material and explain it, but you'll just see the text on the screen, so you know that I'm not making it up. Okay, so let's just, what we should do, though? We should review last week's verse just very quickly. So for that, I'll just use Sepharia for that. Give me a second. I'm going to open up Sepharia and put it on the screen.
You're very excited about this week's class, Rabbi.
Oh, well, I hope to requite your excitement with satisfyingly exciting material. I find it extremely exciting. T. Bishop, I just got off the phone with 911. I was worried because you were late. They told me to relax and the class would begin soon. I'm not late. What are you talking about? So here, let me present this screen. Okay, so which is the view we like? This one? My face is looking a little small. So, or is it this one? No, it's this one, isn't it? Okay, so let's go down to last week was verse 19, right? So, and we said this. We said, "V'yarashu hanegev et har Esav." The south will inherit the mountain of Esau, v'ashefela et Pelishtim, and the lowland will inherit the Philistines, v'yarashu et sedei Ephraim, and they will inherit the field of Ephraim, v'et sedei Shomeron, and the field of Shomeron, Samaria, uvinyamin et Hagilad, and the tribe of Benjamin, will inherit the Gilad. So we talked about the south of the land of Israel, which belonged traditionally to the tribe of Judah, will extend southward into the land of Esau, and the lowland will extend westward to the coast, which was traditionally the land of the Philistines, and they'll also conquer the field of Ephraim, which is in the north of the land of Israel, and also the Gilad, which is east of the Jordan. And we said the tribe that inhabited that place, which was Manasseh, will extend along the east side of the Jordan River further and essentially take over the lands of Moab and Ammon. And we looked at some maps last week, and we'll leave that. If you want to explore that, go to last week's class number 15. Now we get to verse 20, okay? So as I mentioned, it's blocked. Let me see if I can unblock that. It's blocked on my ear. Is that better? That's all better. As I mentioned in the pregame before we started the broadcast, I'm not using the slides this week because there was like too much material for me to pack into slides. So we're just gonna go a little organic, okay? So it says like this. I'll read it with the cantillation and then we'll translate it. And then we'll peek at the Sephardic translation to see how close or not close it is. Because it's a very mysterious, enigmatic verse. And it reads like this. Vigolos hachel hazeh livnei Yisrael asher kinaanim ad tzorefas. Vigolos Yerushalayim asher bisfarad Yerushu eis orei hanegev. So now let's peek at that a little bit at a time. Vigalut hachel hazeh. Already we have problems. The first word is easy. Vigalut. Galut, everyone who knows Hebrew knows galut is exile. Okay, so vigalut and the exile of hachel hazeh, the exile of this chel. The question is, what does the word chel mean? Now, we have seen the word chel before in this book, maybe more than once, and we discussed quite a bit the different alternative meanings of the word chel. Now, based on what we said before, some of you may remember that chel means like a mass of something. It could be a mass of people. It could be a mass of possessions. It could be a mass of strength, abilities, talents, etc. So is that what it means here? And the exile of this mass, which would mean a mass of people, right? The exile of this great group of people. Let's go with that. Now, if we go with that, what immediately may strike you, if you're a Hebrew reader and you've been paying attention thus far in the series, what would be the challenge of translating this word as it's written here, hachel, to be the same word as chel, which we met previously? Does anyone see an immediate difficulty with that translation? So what you may notice, let's see if we go back. Let's go backwards and find it. If we find the word chel, it's a short book, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. We had it at least once prior. Here's the word bichelo. you should probably see, right? Bechelo. So the bet is a prefix, the O ending is a suffix, and the word chel is in the middle. How is it spelled? It's spelled chet yud lamed. Okay. But when we go down to the word chel here, it's spelled chet lamed without a yud. So the yud is missing. The spelling is different. Now, most commentators ignore this difference in spelling and say, like we would say in Yiddish, no is like, so what? It's one little letter. It doesn't really make a difference. It's what you might call an alternative spelling. Okay. It's an alternative spelling for the word chel, and it has the same meaning. Okay, fine. Let's go with that for now. And the exile of this mass, meaning a mass of people, Livnei Yisrael, of the children of Israel, Asher Kenaanim, that are Canaanites, ad Tzorfat, until Tzorfat. Now I'm going to read that again, and it's still not going to make any sense. And the exile of this mass of the children of Israel that are Canaanites until Tzorfat. What does it mean that the children of Israel are Canaanites? I understand that it says until Tzorfat, and Tzorfat is a place. So there's an exile of the children of Israel that was exiled all the way to a place called Tzorfat. But why does it call them Canaanites? That's question number, I wouldn't say question number one. Already we had one question on the word chel. But let's say we answered that question. So now question number two, why are the children of Israel who are exiled to Tzorfat being called Canaanites? Okay, think about it. Question number three, where is Tzorfat? Okay, let's hold that thought. Let's continue the translation. Vegalut Yerushalayim, and the exile of Jerusalem, Asher Bisfarad, that is in Sepharad. So now we have two exiles mentioned and two places. There's this first exile that's mentioned that are in a place that were exiled as far as Tzorfat. And then there's an exile of Jerusalem. The first one's called the exile of the children of Israel, that was exiled as far as Tzorfat. We have a question why they're called Canaanites. And the exile of Jerusalem is a second group that is in a place called Sepharad. Now, Sepharad should sound much more familiar to most people, as we all know of a group called Sephardic Jews. Sephardic Jews are Jews from Sepharad. So presumably we know where this place is. And today we have a group of Jews that make up about half of modern Jewry that are Sepharad, Jews of Sepharad, Sephardic Jews. So the exile of Jerusalem went to this place called Sepharad. And it said, what about them? Yirishu et Arei HaNegev. They will inherit the cities of the south. Okay, so again, the cities of the south, the southern portion of the land of Israel, which was traditionally the land of Judah, the tribe of Judah, will be inherited at this time by the exiles, presumably returning from those who went as far as Tzorfat and those who were in Sepharad. Okay, now you have to remember that this prophecy was written during the times of the first temple, before there was any exile. This is incredible, the prescience of the prophet to predict what we're going to understand this verse to mean. But even before I start any interpretation, people who even know basic Hebrew will appreciate how incredible this prophecy is, that it's saying there's a group of Jews that are exiled as far as Tzorfat, and some people might know where that is. And there's a group of Jews that were exiled to a place called Sepharad, and they're going to return in the end times and inhabit the land that was traditionally inhabited by the tribe of Judah in the past. Okay, any questions until now? Perhaps there are many questions, but I want to pause before I continue to just hear anyone's comments. So, Red Rose.
Oh, sorry, go
Hi,
ahead.
Rosie. Yes, someone's talking.
I'm sorry, Rabbi. I was just gonna say, could the first one be like a reference to maybe the modern Ashkenazi?
Aha! What makes you say so?
Because I'm pretty sure the Sephardic and Ashkenazi are almost all from the tribe of Judah,
Okay,
if I'm not
very good.
mistaken.
Very good. Historically, our understanding is that the modern Ashkenazic Jews and the modern Sephardic Jews are all exiles from the Second Temple period, where the tribe of Judah was essentially the only tribe in the land of Israel, because the 10 tribes were carried away into captivity by Assyria, as we spoke about, and they never returned. I'll put that in quotation marks. They never returned. And the tribe of Judah was exiled to Babylonia. They returned after 70 years. And the second temple was Judah. They were exiled by the Romans to Europe. So, and Ashkenazic Jews come from Central and Eastern Europe. And Sephardic Jews come from Sepharad, which many people know already is Spain. Okay. So they would all presumably be the exile from Judah. Now, when I say Judah, we have to know it's not exclusively the tribe of Judah. It was Judah and Benjamin who comprised one kingdom, which were exiled together to Babylonia and returned together as sort of a mixed group. And they became kind of mixed together, Judah and Benjamin. So a modern Jewry is really predominantly descendants of Judah and Benjamin mixed together. And as I mentioned to you prior, the cities of Shimon were scattered among the cities of Judah. So the tribe of Shimon, Simon, would also be included in that. And the Levites were scattered through all the tribes, and the priests, the Kohanim. So those are all together. Now we have an oral tradition of who are the Levites and who are the Kohanim among us today. They self-identify, but who is exactly from Judah or Benjamin? Most people do not have a clear tradition, but we know we're from that group. So it would now we have these two groups in the verse. One is clearly from Sepharad, that would be Sephardic Jewry. It would seem the other group would presumably be what we call Ashkenazic Jewry. Now that said, does anyone know then what is Tzorfat? It says this group was exiled as far as Tzorfat. So in modern Hebrew, Tzorfat
Is it France?
is France. That's right. Tzorfat is France. So it's telling us about a group of Jews that was exiled as far west as France. Now, west of France is Spain, and there's another group of Jews there that seem to have been exiled separately, according to this. So we're going to have to explore how that is. Now, again, we have a very clear history now of Ashkenazic migration based on not only oral traditions, but now based on DNA. We can trace the migrations of Ashkenazic Jewry through Italy, because Ashkenazic DNA is made up of two major genetic groups. One is a Levantine, like a Middle Eastern, and one is Italian. So the Ashkenazi Jews have very, like, even in all the countries of Ashkenaz where they spread to, they remained very, very genetically similar. But what we have, what they call the genetic bottleneck, which means the initial group from which Ashkenazic Jewry spread, was clearly a small group of migrants from northern Italy into the Germanic lands, and then from there to France and eastward into Poland and Russia, etc. So there's a very clear migration through Italy. We can see that these originated in the Middle East, migrated through Italy and to the countries where they later established communities, where we know where modern history finds the Ashkenazic communities in modern historical records, until their return to Israel and migration to America. and ultimately their destruction in World War II and the Holocaust. The population of Jews in Europe now is extremely, extremely small, where it used to be extremely, extremely large. Bree, go ahead.
Aren't the Sephardic, the Spanish, Moroccan, Israel Jews? Sephardic is the Spain.
Right. So now
Monaco.
we know there's another group of Jews called the Sephardic Jews, and Sepharad is identified with Spain. And there was a very large Jewish community in Spain, and they were expelled during the time of the Inquisition and Spanish expulsion that followed in the late 15th century to North Africa, where they spread through North Africa and back to the Middle East into Arabic-speaking countries. So what we know today as Mizrahi Jews, which means Eastern Jews, or Edot Mizrach, the Eastern communities, are made up very much of Spanish exiles. So, and it's a whole separate group. So where did they come from? If we have the Ashkenazim clearly tracing their migration through Italy to the rest of Europe, excluding Spain, but until France, that's very accurate. This verse is very accurate. Until France. What about Spain? Where did the Sephardic Jews come from? They didn't come through Italy. They weren't exiled by the Romans. Were they exiled by the Romans directly to Spain and not through Italy? Did they reach Spain a different way? Let's find out. Let's find out. Okay, so we have this comment in the YouTube comments. So western side, what I gathered was the eastern shoreline of Egypt through the Sinai Peninsula is land of Israel. Is that correct? Eastern shoreline of Egypt through the Sinai Peninsula. We didn't talk about Egypt or Sinai at all. We did not mention Egypt or Sinai at all. JJ Otto says France. That's right. Tzorfat is France in modern Hebrew. Okay. So now let's take a look at some of the commentaries. And with this, I'm gonna take you over to a Google Doc, okay, where I pasted in the rest of the source material that I want to look at. Let me go up. Look at all this material. It's crazy. So much here. It's insane.
Was Rashi also French?
Rashi was French. That's right. I was right. Rashi was French. Rashi was an Ashkenazic Jew. Okay, so when you see what Rashi says, you might flip out a little bit. Okay, whether you could see the text, not see the text, read it, not read it, I'm going to go through this information. So here's the verse. Oopsies. Here's the verse, okay? Now we have Targum. Targum, as I mentioned, is an Aramaic translation, which is attributed to Yonatan ben Uziel, who lived during the Second Temple period, okay? At the end of the Second Temple period. And he wrote an Aramaic translation, which reads as follows. Vegalut Amahadain, and the exile of this nation. So he's translating Chel, large group, mass, as Amma, nation. So he understands it as a mass of people. He calls it a nation. And the exile of this nation, Divnei Yisrael, of the children of Israel, Div'ara Kena'anoi, that are in the land of the Canaanites. So what does he do? It says that Asher Kena'anim, that, literally it's that, where Asher means that, Kena'anim means Canaanites. This group, that Canaanites. So usually in Hebrew, what you do is you infer the state of being verb. So you would say that are Canaanites, but he says, no. It's not that they are Canaanites. What's the missing word here is that are of the land of the Canaanites. They're not literally Canaanites, but they are of the land of Canaan, if you will. Ad Tzorfat. They are, he says, okay. And the exile of this nation of the children of Israel, literally that are in the land of the Canaanites, ad Tzorfat, until Tzorfat. Okay. Now we'll see what that means. This is an exile of the children of Israel that are in the land of the Canaanites until Tzorfat. Okay, hold that thought. Vegalut Yerushalayim, and the exile of Jerusalem, Div Aspamia, that are in Aspamia. Now, Aspamia is very obviously the Aramaic word for Spain. Aspamia. He takes the word Sepharad, which doesn't sound all that much like Spain. Sepharad. Yeah, it has a S sound and a F sound, so it's like an SP, but that's where it ends, right? Sepharad, and he calls it Aspamia. It's very clearly Spain. Now, just in case you don't even believe me, the Talmud talks about a place called Germania. Now, Germania, again with an sound, is obviously Germany, but the sound and the n sound are interchangeable a lot. So España is like España, Espanol, right? So he's clearly identifying Sfarad as Spain, but he doesn't do that with Tzorfat. He doesn't change the name of Tzorfat. Just pay attention to that. So he talks about the exile of the nation of the children of Israel that are in the land of the Canaanites until Tzorfat, and the exiled Jerusalem that are in Aspamia, Spain. Yachsenun Yat Kirvei Arad Daroma, they will inherit the cities of the land of the south. Okay, so we have a few translations here that clarify some of the meanings of the enigmatic Hebrew, but still it remains somewhat enigmatic. Who are the children of Israel that are in the land of the Canaanites until Tzorfat? And if Tzorfat is France, why doesn't he translate it that way? Like he translates Sfarad into Aspamia. Okay, so questions to ponder. Any thoughts before I continue with Rashi? Okay, stop me at any time. Rashi says as follows: Vegalut hachel hazeh, this the exile of this chel, Targum Yonatan. Rashi says that Yonatan translated Amahadein, this nation. Okay, and he says hachel l'shon chayil. So chel here, the word chel here is like the word chayil with a yud. It's the same thing, right? Ela shezeh chaser yod. This one's missing a yud. Okay, no. Leave it there. Okay, now you'll notice I put ellipses, which means I left out some of Rashi's comments. They were not relevant to our class, so I left them out. But there's other words in Rashi, and let's not pretend it doesn't say more than that, but I felt what he added was not relevant. So I'm moving on. Now he says, of the children of Israel that are Canaanites until Tzorfat. So he says, Galut asher humi b'nei Israel shagalami aseret ashvatim. Whoa, listen to what he says here. He says, this is the exile that are of the children of Israel. Why does it say the children of Israel? The other exiles from Jerusalem, but this it says is the children of Israel. He says, Shagalume aseret ashvatim, because it's talking about the 10 tribes, says Rashi. This is the exile. There's two groups here. There's the exile of the 10 tribes, and there's the exile of the people of Jerusalem, which means the tribe of Judah. Those are the two groups here, he says. That's not like we had discussed just a few minutes ago. So Rashi throws us a little bit of a monkey wrench. He says these Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, they are from the 10 tribes. He says, Le'eretz Kena'anim, they were exiled to the land of the Canaanites ad Tzorfat, until Tzorfat. What does that mean? Isn't the land of Israel the land of the Canaanites? And are you telling me that they went? So where's Tzorfat? Mysterious. Hold that thought. Let's continue. And the exile of Jerusalem, which is in Sfarad, he says, Shehemi b'nei Yehuda, these are from the tribe of Judah. Asher galu l'Sfarad, they were exiled to Spain. He says they will inherit the lands of the cities of the south of the land of Israel. Okay. Now that said, what Rashi may be saying here in the first part, I'm just thinking out loud right now, is that the exile of the 10 tribes, when they return, he says, Le'eretz Kena'anim, to the land of the Canaanites, meaning when they return to the land of Canaan, which is the land of Israel, they will occupy the land of Israel until a place called Tzorfat. Now, until now, I told you Tzorfat is France, but maybe there's another alternative. Maybe Tzorfat is somewhere else that we'll see. And Rashi and Targum, who did not translate Tzorfat as France, the way that he translates Sepharad as Spain, is understanding this differently. And Rashi is saying that the 10 tribes will return to the land of Canaan and occupy the land until a place called Tzorfat, which we'll identify. And the people of Judah that were exiled to Spain, according to Rashi, will return and they will inherit the cities of the south. Okay,
May
so
I throw something in, please?
yeah.
I was just thinking, all those northern African countries, I think they were French colonies.
They were, oh, very good. Okay, let's hold that thought. Okay, hold that thought. I like your thinking. So the way Rashi's reading it, it sounds like there's these two groups. The first group is gonna, of the children of Israel, it's saying they will return to the land of the Canaanites until Tzorfat. That'll be their portion, and the exile of the Judahites that are in Spain will return to the land of the south where Judah had occupied before. So it's like the northern tribes will return to the north, as we'll see Tzorfat is in the north, and the southern tribes will return to the south. That seems to be a simple way that Rashi's understanding it, but he's going to offer an alternative. He says, Va'omrim ha-potrim, and the potrim say, now potrim kind of means like interpreters, and the interpreters say, it doesn't say who they are. Tzorfat hu ha-malchut shekorin France Belaz. Now, Rashi lived in France, and he throws in French words all the time. And here's one of those instances where he says, Tzorfat, in this verse, this is an alternative meaning, Rashi says, is not referring to some place called Tzorfat, which is either in the land of Canaan or close to the land of Canaan, but rather it's the kingdom which is called today, I don't know if you could read Hebrew letters, it says here, France, okay? And Sepharad, Targum Yonatan, and Sepharad was translated by Yonatan, Aspamia, Spain. So then Rashi's alternative understanding is we're talking about France and Spain. Now, if we're talking about France and Spain, does Rashi mean to say that the 10 tribes were exiled to France? Is that what he's saying? Because he says the first group are the 10 tribes. So maybe he's saying that. Yeah, the Jews who are in France are from the 10 tribes. That would be very surprising to hear. Like Colin pointed out, the Ashkenazi Jews are descendants of the 10 tribes. And the Sephardic Jews are descendants of Judah. That's what it would seem to come out. Or is Rashi changing his whole interpretation, saying, if you want to say that Tzorfat is somewhere close to the land of Israel or in the land of Israel, so then we're talking about the 10 tribes. But if we're talking about France, then I take it back. Then the whole thing is talking about Judah. But he doesn't say it explicitly. Rashi is very sparing in his words, so it leaves a lot unsaid. So I leave it to you to conjecture what he means. But we certainly have two possibilities. Number one is that we're talking about the first group is the 10 tribes, and Tzorfat is a place in the land of Israel or near it, which we'll see where it is. Or it's France, and maybe still the two groups are the 10 tribes that are occupying Central and Eastern Europe as far as France, where we know the Ashkenazic communities to be. And the Sephardic communities are from Judah. That's a possible reading here, but all of that is very surprising. Now, what makes it more surprising is that when I discovered, some of you may recall, when I researched my ancestry, that I'm in fact descended from Rashi. So someone made a comment of, so wasn't Rashi from the line of David? And there is a tradition that Rashi was from the line of David. Now, I don't know the source for that tradition. I just know it's something that it's a very popular, so to speak, quote unquote, known thing about Rashi. But my response to that was Rashi had no sons, only daughters. So if he was from the line of David, that didn't pass through him to his descendants, right? So I can't claim Davidic lineage, aside from the fact that my lineage from Rashi is on my mother's side, not my father's side anyway. But if Rashi's suggesting that Ashkenazic Jewry, of which he was a part, was descended from the 10 tribes, that means he didn't even think he was from the line of David. So where does that idea even come from? I don't know. Is Rashi suggesting that? Is he not suggesting that? I don't know. So that's just a thought, okay? Next, I want to look at the commentary of Ibn Ezra, but before I do, I'll take any questions or comments. Okay, stop me at any time. Here's the commentary of Ibn Ezra. Ibn Ezra lived like right after Rashi. This probably overlapped with him a little bit, maybe, possibly. He lived in the period like right after Rashi in Spain, okay? And here's what he says. Asher Kenaanim, this phrase of that are Canaanites, or again, literally that Canaanites, and it's very vague what it means. He says, Shamano mipi gedolim. We have heard from gedolim, from great ones. He doesn't identify who these are. Ki eretz Almania heim hakenaanim shebarchu mipenei bnei Yisrael bevoam el haaretz. Atomic bomb dropped. Speaking of Iran, which I haven't brought up at all in this class. But if you've been paying attention to my series until now, wow. Okay, just wow. But
Torah always fits in the events.
Of course. Of course. Now listen to this. He says this. The land of Almania, I'm going to ask you in a minute if you know where that is, because I do. The land of Almania are the Canaanites that fled from the children of Israel when they came to the land, meaning when Joshua entered the land of Canaan and fought wars against the Canaanites to conquer the land, many Canaanites fled. Where did they go? So says Ibn Ezra that they went to the land of Almania, and we'll identify Almania shortly. And he says, Gam kachat Tzorfat, so too they went to the land of Tzorfat, he Francia, which is France. So he says, what does it mean, the children of Israel that are Canaanites until Tzorfat? It means, well, we'll see what it means, but it seems to be saying the children of Israel that were exiled. Either he means, it's not clear, he's not clear, to the land of the Canaanites who fled the land of Israel until Tzorfat. And then the children of Israel who were exiled followed them into those lands. And now the children of Israel are living in the lands together with the Canaanites who fled the lands of Israel. Or he means to say that just as the Canaanites fled the land of Israel as far as Almania and France, so too the Jews have been forced to be were exiled similarly, but it's not identifying where they went. It's just saying, like the Canaanites who fled to France and Almania, right? So again, the two possibilities: the Jews themselves were exiled to the lands where the Canaanites fled to, which are as far as France and includes what he calls the land of Almania, or like the Canaanites who fled to these lands, the Jews also were exiled from their land. Which one does he mean? Unclear. There's a third possibility, but we'll see it in later commentaries. Okay, but what he does say, that the land of Almania are the Canaanites that fled from the children of Israel when the children of Israel conquered the land of Canaan. And he says, Gam kachat Tzorfat, so too Tzorfat, he Francia, which is France. Seems to be saying clearly that Almania and France, the people there are the Canaanites who fled from the children of Israel. Can you believe that?
Can I interject something?
Now we didn't identify Almania yet, but we will in a moment. Yeah, but go ahead.
It's just in our study in the Varim that out of the 7 Canaanite lands, when Yehoshua comes in, 2 ran away. 2 of the nations ran away.
Well, I'm aware of one, the Girgashi. The Girgashi.
Okay, and there's one more.
Now, the one more I'm not familiar with, but the Girgashi ran away, but our sages say they ran away to a place called Afriki. Now, if I ask you where Afriki was, you'd probably assume it's Africa, and you might be right. And there actually is, archaeological evidence that there was a Girgashi people in North Africa, in like, I'm trying to think of the name of the country. Starts with a T. Help me out. What's a North African country that starts with a T?
Tunisia.
What?
Tunisia.
In Tunisia, there are archaeological records of a Girgashi people. So that would align with that. Now, if you want to take a different perspective, it's very hard to understand where else Afriki could be. But just like Sepharad, which starts with an S sound and an F sound, which is like a P, and Sepharad becomes Spain, maybe Girgashi, which starts with a Gimel and a H, becomes Germany, because you'll see that here J.J. Otto tells us that the Alemanni tribe was a Germanic tribe, and that's correct. The land of Almania is synonymous with Germany. Okay, so for example, when I did my genealogical research, and my mother has German ancestors, Jewish, but many of the records that exist recording where they lived, the country given is Alamein, not Germany. It's Alamein, but if you translate that, Alamein translates to Germany. It's equivalent. So when he's talking about Almania, he's talking about Germany. So he's saying Germany and France are inhabited by Canaanites. That's what Ibn Ezra is reporting that he heard. Okay, so it's quite amazing. We will tentatively hear that, although we don't need to determine that that's factually accurate. Let's put it that way. But this is what Ibn Ezra heard and reports to us in his commentary. We're going to see differing opinions on the subject. And spoiler alert, it certainly does not conform to, let's say, conventional historical studies. But it's very interesting. Okay, let's continue. Now he says, and Yonatan ben Uziel translated Sepharad as Aspamia. He says, Vizohi Galut Titus. This is the exile of Titus. Titus is Titus. Titus was the Roman general who destroyed the temple and carried away the Judeans into captivity when he destroyed the second temple. So Sepharad Aspamia, he says, is the exile of Titus. Vizot hanavu la'atid. This is a prophecy of the future, meaning the future of the time of Obadiah, who lived in the first temple. But so he's identifying, you hear this? The Sephardic Jewry that are in Spain were exiled by Titus to Spain, sounds like, directly. Because we mentioned before that, again, conventional history, our own books, and oral traditions, as well as the genetic evidence, shows Ashkenazic Jewry emerged from Italy, but also have origins in the Levant, so that we can see the migration from Israel through Italy into Central and Eastern Europe.
And don't they say Columbus was Italian Jew?
Columbus was an Italian person who claimed Jewish ancestry, and there is a lot of evidence that that's true. He was definitely a devout Christian, but he claimed Jewish ancestry, and many historians believe him. Okay, and we don't know for sure. We don't know for certain. But that Spanish Jewry originated from the Second Temple exile, and presumably Ashkenazic Jewry too. But it means that the exiles were brought to at least two different shores, the shores of Italy, and that became the origin, the genesis of Ashkenazic Jewry, and the shores of Spain, which became the genesis of Sephardic Jewry. Okay. Any questions or comments before I continue? Okay, let's go on. Here is the commentary of Radak. Radak lived like just after Ibn Ezra, right? So we go from Rashi to Ibn Ezra to Radak. He's a little bit later. And he has some more comments, but he says as follows. The exile of the people of the children of Israel, he says the same thing, that the word hachel is missing a yud, and it's the equivalent of if it would be written with a yud. He does the same thing. Targum does the same thing. Rashi does the same thing. Ibn Ezra, I don't know if did Ibn Ezra make a comment on that. We didn't see that Ibn Ezra made such a comment, but he doesn't argue with it. And Radak makes the same comment. They're all interpreting the word hachel without a yud to mean the same as hachel with a yud. Okay. He says, okay. So the exile of the children of Israel that were spread out in the diaspora, he says, Asher Kenanim, that enigmatic phrase, that Canaanites. He says that means Asher Galu Vehem im Kenaanim ad Tzorfat. They were exiled and they are now presently with the Canaanites as far as Tzorfat. So he seems to be following what Ibn Ezra said. And this was one way that we understood that Ibn Ezra, that Radak seems to understand this way, that just as the Canaanites left the land of Israel and settled as far as a place called Tzorfat, that is where the children of Israel were exiled to, and they're living in these Canaanite lands in the exile, which Ibn Ezra identified as France and Germany, right? Now he says, although he doesn't translate it here, but just wait. And the exile of Jerusalem that is in Sepharad will inherit the cities of the south. Okay, he says those are the cities of Judah, because the portion of Judah was in the south of the land of Israel, and the prophet says that they will inherit. So when he says inherit the lands of the south, he's talking about the second group, like we saw before in Rashi, that the second group, the exile of Jerusalem, who are the people of Judah, those are the ones that the prophet means to say will inherit the lands of the cities of the south, which are the portion of Judah, meaning they'll return to their land and their cities. And then he offers an alternative. Or he's saying Yarshu, they'll inherit Al Kulam. He's talking about all of them. Why? Because Jerusalem, which was in the portion of Judah, even though it was in the portion of Judah, all the tribes of Israel will have a portion in Jerusalem in the future time. All the portions will have all the tribes will have a portion in Jerusalem, as it says in the prophecy of Ezekiel. Okay, so either it's when it says that they will inherit the cities of the south, it means specifically Judah, or it could be going on the whole group that they're all going to inherit. But understand the implication. Listen by implication. That means the second group, there's two groups in the verse. Listen again. Listen sharply. Listen closely. What the Radak is saying. There are two groups identified in this verse. The first group, which he calls the children of Israel, and the second group, which he says are the children of Judah. That means the first group is not the children of Judah. So who are the first group? Like Rashi said, the first group must be the other 10 tribes. So he says the second group will get the cities of the south because they're the children of Judah. Alternatively, the other tribes will also share that portion, because in the future, all the tribes will have a portion in Jerusalem, like Yechezkel says. So that means in this verse in Obadiah, we have two groups. The first group is the 10 tribes, like Rashi told us. The second group is the tribe of Judah. And if that's true, he's saying somewhat clearly what wasn't clear in Rashi. He seems to be reiterating that it's that first group of 10 tribes that are in the lands of the Canaanites as far as Tzorfat. Now, he didn't yet tell us that those are the lands of Germany and France. But if those are the lands of Germany and France, then he's saying what the Ibn Ezra is saying, that the lands of Germany and France are inhabited by Canaanite exiles. And what the Ibn Ezra didn't clearly say, that the Jews were living there, Radak is saying the Jews are living there, which would imply, like we thought maybe Rashi was saying, but we found it to be peculiar. But here Radak seems to be saying more clearly that Ashkenazic Jewry, as we know it, are descendants of the 10 tribes, while Sephardic Jewry are descendants of the tribe of Judah. Okay.
Is he saying that everyone will have a portion in Jerusalem because the Beis Hamikdash will be there?
Something like that, something to that effect. He's referring to a prophecy in Ezekiel that I did not consult before the class, so I'm not prepared to speak specifically about what Ezekiel says because I don't remember, but essentially, yes. Essentially, yes. Okay, so this is quite astounding. This is quite astounding. Let's see if we could get through the comments of Radak. There's so much more that we're going to have to continue. This verse has enough in it. Like I said in the pregame, we'll probably have to split it in two, and that looks like what we're going to do, because we're going to hopefully finish Radak, and we'll run out of time. But what we're going to see after Radak predominantly is Abarbanel, and Abarbanel is going to blow the top off. Okay, if you thought it was crazy until now, this ain't nothing. Okay, Barbanel's going to blow the top off. But let's finish Radak, and then we'll take questions and call it an evening. Okay, now he says, the Galut Hachel Hazeh, and the exile of this group. Now here, what he's about to say is going to almost reverse everything I said until now. Look what he says. He says, because we started it with the Galut HaChel Hazeh Livnei Israel, the exile of this Chel, of the children of Israel. And he says that were exiled with, and they are with the Canaanites as far as Tzorfat. And then he says the second group is Judah, which by exclusion means the first group is not Judah, right? From what he's about to say, it seems he's maybe reversing that, or he's offering an alternative, because he's revisiting the same words and he's saying something completely different now. Okay, so the exile of this Chel, this group, he says Hugalut Titus. This is the exile of Titus. Now, what we saw at Ibn Ezra is that the second group, the exile of Jerusalem that's in Sepharad, which is Spain, Ibn Ezra says that's the exile of Titus, second temple. But now Radak seems to return to the first part of the verse and say that's the exile of Titus, which is certainly Judah. He says this group was exiled by Titus among the many lands. And what lands are these? He says, Artsot Almania, the lands of Almania, which is Germany. And now he adds another land. And what is this land? This is the land that he says, Ashkelonia. I mean, I'm just phonetically reading it. There's no vowels. It's hard to know. It looks like it says Ashkelonia. This letter shin, which makes a sh sound, can also make a s sound. Maybe it's Askelonia. Askelonia. I have no idea what that is. So what is he saying? This group that was exiled by Titus. So now we seem to be going back to the idea that it was the second temple. They're in the lands of Germany and the Askelonia. I don't know what it is. My only thought was that sounds like the land of Cologne, which is kind of where is Cologne anyway? Sounds like France, right?
Sure. Germany.
Cologne's in Germany. It's like Franco-Germany, basically, like Alsace and these places. But what's the first part? The Askelonia, right? What is this Ash part? I don't know. And he says, Tzorfat and Tzorfat, hu shekorin France. So again, he clearly says, Radak clearly says that Tzorfat is France. And he also identifies Germany. And he says a place called Ashkelonia, unclear what it is. I do have a couple of clues about it, which I will share, but because the hour is late, it'll have to, the mystery of Ashkelonia will have to wait till next time. But we for sure have, again, Germany and France. Okay. The Artsot Sepharad, and also the land of Spain, Shekorin Spania. Here it's more clear, Spain. Instead of Aspamia, he says Spania. So Sepharad is Spania. So it seems to be he's now talking about the entire verse as referring to different exiles that all were exiled by Titus, which would be the second temple. Some of them ended up in Germany. Some of them ended up in some place called Ashkelonia, which he seems to.
Could that be Poland?
What?
Could that be Poland?
I don't want to say no to you, but I want to ask you, why do you think so?
It reminds me of Auschwitz, but there's a very big Jewish community in Poland.
Okay, good. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. So he talks about Germany, and he puts together with Germany this Ashkelonia place, and then he says France, and then he says Spain, and the Bnei Yerushalayim, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, they are the ones who went to Sepharad, and others went to the other lands that are mentioned, that were of Shahayu Bir Shutam, that were in their dominion, meaning the Roman part of the Roman Empire. And he says, V'itpashtu ba'aratzot, and then they spread out among all the lands. Ume aratzot elu galume atzmam, and from these lands, galume atzmam, they literally means they exiled themselves. Otam shehem hayu ba'aratzot Yishmaelim, those which were in the Ishmaelite lands, the Arab lands, meaning the Jewish communities that are in the Arabic lands. It sounds like he's saying came from these lands and went to the Arab lands. Now, he's before the Spanish expulsion. So when we think of the Spanish expulsion and Sephardic Jewry going from Spain to the Arabic lands, that happened later. So I don't know if it sounds like he's commenting about something in his own time. There were already Jewish communities in these lands, which he sounds like he's saying came from these lands, which he already mentioned, which the Jews went to after the destruction of the Second Temple. That even prior to the Spanish expulsion, which he didn't experience yet, Radak, there were already Jewish exiles in the Arabic lands, which came from the Roman lands. That's what it sounds like he's saying. And he says, V'omrim ba-Kabbalah, and they say in Kabbalah, Kabbalah here doesn't mean mysticism. Kabbalah literally means to receive something. So Omrim ba-Kabbalah means it is said according to tradition, like a received tradition. It's passed from one generation to the next. He says, so according to tradition, he says, Ki b'nei eretz Almania hayu Kenaniim. According to tradition, the people of the land of Almania were Canaanites. Because he says, when the Canaanites left because of Joshua's invasion, as we said in the land of in the book of Joshua, apparently he wrote this in his commentary to Joshua as well, which I don't remember, but he does have a commentary in the book of Joshua. He says they went to the land of Almania, which is Germany, and Ashkelonia, which we don't know what that is yet. Shekorin Eretz Ashkenaz. And now finally he says the word Ashkenaz we were all waiting for, which is called the land of Ashkenaz. The land of Ashkenaz includes these places, Almania and Ashkelonia. Okay. The Od Hayom Korim Otam Canaanim. And even today, they call them Canaanites. Now, apparently in the time of the Radak, people called the inhabitants of these lands Canaanites. Okay? Canaanites. Now, that is a big mystery. Really? They called the people of these lands Canaanites? Is that so? The Radak is saying it. Today it is so. He seems to bear witness to that fact. So we're going to need to understand that. We're going to need to come back to it. So to sum up, we're going to have to pause here because the hour is late. We're going to divide this into at least 2 classes. The examination of the history of the exiles that Obadiah is describing. But essentially, we have Obadiah describes two groups: the children of Israel that are identified with Canaanites for some reason and are described as having been exiled as far as Tzorfat, and the second group is the children of Jerusalem, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, that are exiled as to Sepharad, to Spain. And we said a different possibility. Number one, we're not sure where Tzorfat is, but many commentaries have identified it with France. We haven't given an alternative yet. Some have identified, have lumped together with France, Germany, a land called Ashkelonia, which we need to figure out what that is. And it would seem to comport with the lands where Ashkenazic Jewry seem to originate. And that would be the first group. And there's a possibility that some of the commentaries are suggesting they're from the 10 tribes, although not clearly so. Like we saw in Rashi, maybe he did or didn't mean that. Radak seems to suggest it, but then change his mind and say, no, these are the exiles of Titus from the Second Temple. And Sephardic Jewry, so far as we could see, it's being suggested were also originated with the Second Temple exile, destruction and exile. So the picture that emerges is a whole lot of question marks that need to be addressed, but of the suggestions that have been put forward, we have Ashkenazic Jewry being described in the verse and Sephardic Jewry being described in the verse, both most likely being exiles from the Second Temple, some having arrived somehow into the Germanic lands and France and this other unidentified area, which Bree suggested could be Poland, and we may see there's something to that. And the other group who ended up in Spain from the exile. So we have the fate of Ashkenazic and Sephardic Jewry being discussed in the verse, but there's still a lot of loose ends to tie up and a lot more material to go through to fully flesh out what is being described in these verses. And that's what we'll do, God willing, in the coming class. So
may I bring up one point, please?
Yeah.
What I had learned was that the land of Canaan, it relates to the word for humility, which I don't remember. And
very good.
It tells us that we have to be humble to stay in the land.
Okay.
What's that word?
Good. So the shorish you're thinking of is kana, kaf nun ayin, which means like to bow down. No,
what's the word for humble?
Lehikona means to submit, to make oneself submissive or subservient. Lehikona. I was thinking actually the word kora, which is to bow. That's not the word here. Lehikona, to become submissive or to submit or to be subdued. That's the root of the word Canaan, the land of Canaan.
What's the word for humble?
Humble will be, they're different words, but anav is the most common word for humility is anav. But Canaan, from the verb lehikana, to submit. Okay, so that's where we are, and we have a lot more to see, but I think we already, found a lot of surprising comments in the commentaries here, and the even bigger, more surprising comments are yet to come. So we'll explore more in the next class, and I thank you for your attendance. So Trey Bishop tells us Almania is Germany, and it's Almania in Spanish as well. It's called, Germany is called Almania. Even, I guess he means in modern Spanish as well. He says, I often wondered why there doesn't seem to be any consideration in modern Israel for a portion of the land according to tribes. Good point. Number one, for the most part, we don't know who's from what tribe, although we say that the Ethiopian Jews are the tribe of Dan, and there's a group from India that came that are called Bnei Menashe. We're not necessarily even in control of all the lands of Menashe, but the ones that we are, why don't we apportion them? We see from the book of Ezekiel that the tribal portions are going to change in the future. So maybe that's a topic we'll explore separately. Thank you for making sense of all this. I'm not sure that I did make sense of all of it yet, but we're beginning to. We're beginning to put a picture together. It's coalescing. So one piece at a time. Next week we're going to see. Oh boy, what we're going to see next week. So stay tuned. The hour went by very fast, but I've got to go.
Yesher koach.
Okay.
Shavua tov.
Shavua Tov. Pray for the Jewish people. Pray for the United States of America. Pray for the people of Iran who are being oppressed and repressed by the awful regime. We should see the downfall of the wicked and the rise of the righteous and the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, I stayed away from political commentary this week. Everyone, Shavua Tov, have a great week. And Chodesh Tov, this week is Rosh Chodesh. It's the new month of Tammuz, relatively sad month on the calendar, but we could talk more about that as we get closer. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Laila tov.
Good night, Rabbi. Thank you.